seen very well that plants synthesize carbon dioxide in the form of their food. Plants synthesize carbon dioxide through the process of photosynthesis. Carbon dioxide, although as you have seen, is made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are used to synthesize other components of food, such as proteins and fats. You know very well, protein and fats are also essential components of food. But proteins are nitrogenous substances which contain nitrogen. And as I've already told you, nitrogen is very essential for the growth of plant. So children, have you ever thought from where do the plants obtain this nitrogen? Children, recall your memory as I've told you in the chapter of air around us. Our atmosphere has 78% nitrogen, but this nitrogen cannot be utilized by plants nor by animal. So how the plants take this nitrogen? Children, soil has certain bacteria that convert gaseous nitrogen into usable form and release it into the soil. These nitrogen are absorbed by plants along with water. And you have seen very well, farmers are using fertilizers and manure. These fertilizers and manure are rich in nitrogen. In this way, plants fulfill their nitrogen requirement along with other constituents, and that is why plant can synthesize protein and other vitamins also. Now children, in the first part of our video, we have discussed that there are two modes of nutrition, autotroph and heterotroph. Now, heterotroph nutrition in plants have further divided into four subcategories. The first category is parasitic plant, second saprophytic plant, insectivorous plant, and symbiotic plant. Children, let us recall one more time. Heterotrophic plants are those plants which depends on another plant for their food. They are taking their food directly or indirectly by the another plant. Now children, let us study about the parasitic plants. Parasitic plants are those plants which do not have chlorophyll and cannot prepare their own food, but they get their food from another plant which is known as host. Remember children, the plant from which a parasitic plant obtain or take its food is known as host plant. You have seen so many times so many types of bale in the forest which wrap up around some other plant. These type of bale, basically amar bale, is a parasitic plant. This amar bale goes inside its host plant and suck all the nutrient from the host plant. It inserts its hostoria in the host plant and take the nutrition from it. This amar bale is also known as cuscuta or dodder. Now children, second category is insectivorous plant. Children, some plants are growing in such a condition where nitrogen is less in amount. To fulfill their nitrogenous requirement, they feed on insect. Example, pitcher plant, Drosera, Uticularia are some of the plant which fulfill their nitrogen requirement by feeding on insect. Let us talk about the first plant which is known as pitcher plant. This is the pitcher plant children. In this pitcher plant there is a pitcher like a structure which has a lid over its top. Whenever any insect sits on its lid, the insect slides down inside this pitcher. There are some secretive juices inside the pitcher by which the sap of the insect is going to taken by the membrane of the pitcher, and then that is how this pitcher plant fulfill their nitrogenous requirement. Similarly, Venus flytrap, Uticularia and some other plants are also insectivorous plants which feed on insects and fulfill their nitrogenous requirement. Children, another category is saprophytic plants. Saprophytic plants are those plants which also do not have chlorophyll and cannot prepare their food. They basically dependent on dead and decaying organic matter for their food. Likewise, children, you all have seen mushroom, braid mold, etc. These organisms and bacteria also. These organisms cannot prepare, cannot synthesize their food just because they don't have chlorophyll. That is why they produce digestive juices on their dead and decaying organic matter and convert it into a solution and absorb the nutrients from the solution. They basically feed on dead and decay material, decompose all those materials and get break down those material into simpler components. That is how they feed on dead and decay matter. An example of saprophytic plants are mushroom and bread mold, which is a fungi. Here is the structure of mushroom and rhizopus. This is known as bread mold. You can see the structure of rhizopus, a bread mold. In this, they have a simple filamentous structure which is stuck to the host, or you can see bread, and very thin filamentous structures grows where it reproduces asexually and spread in the air. Now, the another category is symbiotic relationship. Children, there are some plants which live together and share shelter and nutrients with them. Children, I have been told you about the legume plants. If you remember that I have told you, there are some nodules present in the legume plants. In those legumes, there's a bacteria live, and the name of the bacteria is rhizobium. This rhizobium bacteria lives in the nodules of the legume plant, and this bacteria has the capability to synthesize to fix the atmospheric nitrogen. That is how, children, this rhizobium bacteria provides nitrogen to the plant and the plant provides shelter to the bacteria. So, a kind of mutual relationship in which two organisms live together and share shelter and nutrients are known as symbiotic relationship. Similarly, one more type of organism known as lichens. Lichens grows in moist places. It is a symbiotic association of alga and a fungus. The alga provides food to the fungus just because algae contains chlorophyll, that is why it synthesizes its food and provide nutrition to fungus, which it prepares by photosynthesis. This is the structure of lichens. These lichens generally grows on mountains on the moist climate. Now, children, our last topic is how these nutrients are replenished in the soil. You know very well all the organisms are made up of some components. So, plant absorb nutrients from the soil. So, the nutrients in the soils are decreasing. So, farmer add manures and fertilizers to add to the soil to increase the nutrient in the soil. Just because the crops are taking nutrients from the soils and the nutrients in the soil is getting decreasing. That is why the bacterium called rhizobium, which lives in the roots of leguminous plants like gram, peas, beans, etc., converts nitrogen from the air into soluble form in the soil and makes the soil rich in nitrogen. In return, the plant provides food and shelter to the bacteria. So they have a symbiotic relationship, and due to this process, the soil is going to be replenished. This is how soil is replenished.